I checked my bank account on a Tuesday morning before my shift at the diner. I logged in on my phone while waiting for the bus. Just my usual routine. I like to see the number, $42,517. It made the burns on my hands and the ache in my feet feel worth it. The page loaded. Account balance, $0. I stared at the screen until the bus pulled up and the driver honked. I stumbled onto the bus, sat down in the back, opened the app again. Still zero. My hand started shaking so hard I almost dropped the phone. I checked the transaction history. One withdrawal, 6 days ago. Transfer to Ryan Cooper Wedding Fund, $42,500. The bus lurched forward, and my stomach lurched with it. 6 days ago. Friday night. I'd been at work. Mom had been home alone. Dad was visiting his brother upstate. Ryan and Madison were at some wedding venue tasting cakes or looking at flowers. I pulled up my text messages. Found the one from Mom that Friday. Working late tonight. Honey, there's leftover pasta in the fridge. She hadn't been working. She'd been stealing. The word felt too harsh, too dramatic. But that's what it was. She'd taken my money without asking, money I'd earned, saved, counted every single dollar of, and given to Ryan for a wedding he didn't even need help paying for. I got off at my stop, walked into the diner, tied on my apron, and took orders like my entire future hadn't just been stolen from me. I smiled at customers, poured coffee, wrote down breakfast orders. Inside, something was breaking. Or maybe something was finally waking up. That night, I sent the email to NYU. My fingers felt numb as I typed on my phone, sitting in the diner's back office during my break. Dear admissions office, due to unforeseen financial circumstances, I will need to defer my admission to the fall semester. I hope to attend at a future date when my situation improves. Thank you for this opportunity. Sincerely, Eli Cooper. I sat there for 5 minutes before I hit send. The little whooshing sound the email made when it left felt like a door closing. I'd worked for this for 4 years. For years of grease burns and sore feet and midnight walks home. For years of saying no to movies with friends, no to school trips, no to anything that cost money I could be saving instead. Gone. I thought about crying, but nothing came out. I just felt hollow, like someone had scooped out my insides and left the shell. When my break ended, I went back to the counter. Joe, the owner, looked at me and frowned. You okay, kid? You look sick. I'm fine, I said, just tired. He nodded and went back to grill. But I wasn't fine. I wasn't tired. I was done. Done being the son who didn't matter. Done being the brother who was expected to smile and understand while Ryan got everything. Done being quiet. The dream had died. But something else was being born. Something cold and clear and focused. I didn't know what it was yet. I just knew that by the time Ryan and Madison stood at that altar, they'd understand exactly what they'd taken from me. The envelope was still on the kitchen counter when I got home that night. Cream cardstock, gold lettering, elegant script that probably cost $3 per invitation. I picked it up, felt the weight of the expensive paper. There was a faint smell on it, Mom's perfume. She'd handled this carefully, lovingly. She'd probably spent an hour arranging it just right on the counter, where Dad would see it when he got home. I opened it even though I'd already seen the one on the fridge. Inside was a note in Mom's handwriting. We're so proud of Ryan and Madison. This is going to be such a beautiful celebration of love and family. I've made sure everything will be perfect. I read it 3 times. Made sure everything will be perfect. That's what my college fund had bought. Perfection for Ryan's wedding. The envelope wasn't sealed. I pulled out the invitation itself. Heavy cardstock, embossed letters, a venue address that I recognized. Willow Creek Vineyard. I'd driven past it before, seen the rolling hills and the glass pavilion where they held events. It was the kind of place that charged by the hour just to stand on their lawn. The kind of place that made a statement. I put everything back in the envelope, set back on the counter exactly where I found it. Then I went upstairs, opened my laptop, and started researching. Willow Creek Vineyard. Their packages, their pricing, their policies. I found their corporate partnership page. They offered sponsorship opportunities for local businesses at public events. One sentence caught my eye. Corporate partners may display branded media as part of the public event package. I read it 5 times. Then I smile for the first time since I'd seen my empty bank account. The guest I was going to send to their wedding was starting to take shape. 3 days later, Mom finally told me. I'd been waiting, wondering how she'd do it. Would she confess? Apologize? Beg for understanding? She chose justification instead. We were in the kitchen. I was eating cereal before work, and she was cleaning counters that were already clean. "Eli, honey," she started, and I knew. I put down my spoon and waited. "I need to talk to you about your college savings." She said like the money was still there, like this was just a conversation about investment strategies. I had to make a difficult decision. Ryan and Madison needed help at the wedding, and family comes first. You understand that, right? Family takes care of family. I didn't say anything. She kept going, her voice getting defensive. "You're only 18. You have time. You can work for a year, save up, go to community college first. Ryan's getting married. This is a once-in-a-lifetime event. We can't let him down on his special day." She reached out and patted my cheek. Her hand was cold. "You'll have other chances. Honey, education isn't going anywhere. But your brother's wedding, that's happening now, and it needs to be perfect." I sat there, feeling her hand on my face, and every muscle in my body wanted to flinch away. But I didn't move. I just looked at her. "How much?" I asked quietly. "How much did you give them?" She hesitated. "All of it. They needed $42,000 for the venue, the catering, the flowers, everything. And you didn't ask me first." "You were at work," she said, like that explained stealing. "I knew you'd understand once I explained." "I understand," I said. I picked up my spoon and went back to my cereal. She smiled, relieved. She actually thought I meant it. She patted my shoulder and left the kitchen. I finished my cereal, rinsed the bowl, and went to work. But I wasn't understanding. I was planning. Madison posted about the wedding constantly. Her social media was a countdown to what she called the biggest day of our lives. Pictures of dress fittings, cake tastings, flower arrangements. Every post had 50 comments from friends saying how lucky she was, how beautiful everything looked, how this was going to be the wedding of a year. One post made me put down my phone and stare at the wall for 10 minutes. It was a photo of Madison and Mom, both of them holding champagne glasses, both smiling like they just won something. The caption said, "Couldn't have done this without the most amazing future mother-in-law. She saved the day and made our dream wedding possible. So blessed to be joining this family." 347 likes. 62 comments. Mom had commented, "Every dollar well spent, sweetheart. Can't wait to see you in that dress." Every dollar. My dollars. Money I'd earned washing dishes and taking orders and smiling at customers who never tipped. Money I'd saved for years, counted every week, watched grow like it was the only thing standing between me and a future that mattered. And Mom had handed it over like it was hers to give, like my dreams were just dollars she could spend on someone else's party. I scrolled through Madison's other posts. The venue, the dress, the 5-course menu. I did the math in my head. Venue rental, $8,000. Catering, $12,000. Flowers, $3,000. Open bar for $1,000. String quartet, $2,000. Photographer, $3,000. On and on until I reached $42,500. My entire future, itemized into wedding expenses. I closed the app, but the image of Mom and Madison with their champagne glasses stayed burned in my mind. They looked so happy, so proud. They had no idea what was coming. Sunday dinner at our house was mandatory. Mom insisted on it, said it kept the family together. That week, she invited relatives. Aunt Caroline and Uncle Pete, Grandma Josephine, Ryan, and Madison. 8 people crowded around our dining room table that barely fit 6. Mom made pot roast her specialty. She always made pot roast when she wanted to impress people. She was doing a lot of impressing lately. So the wedding plans are coming along beautifully. Mom announced halfway through dinner. She said it loud enough that everyone stopped eating. We've secured the most wonderful venue, Willow Creek Vineyard. Very exclusive. Aunt Caroline raised her eyebrows. That place costs a fortune. How'd you manage that? Mom smiled, the kind of smile that made me grip my fork hard enough to hurt. Well, Ryan and Madison needed some help, and I was happy to provide it. Family comes first. We all have to sacrifice, sometimes for people we love. She glanced at me when she said sacrifice, like I'd volunteered, like this was my generous gift instead of her theft. That's so wonderful, Grandma Josephine said. You raised such a good boy in Ryan. Both my boys make me proud, Mom said, but she was still looking at Ryan. She was always looking at Ryan. I sat there, cutting my pot roast into smaller and smaller pieces, watching everyone congratulate Ryan and Madison. Nobody asked about me. Nobody said, "Hey, Eli, weren't you starting college this fall?" I was invisible at that table, just like I'd been invisible my whole life in this house. But that was about to change. I smiled, nodded when people talked to me, cleared plates when dinner was over. The perfect younger brother, the understanding son. Inside, I was counting days. 38 days until the wedding. 38 days until they learned what sacrifice really meant. At the diner, my co-workers started noticing something was wrong. Marcus, the line cook who'd worked there for 15 years, pulled me aside during a slow Tuesday afternoon. "You good, man?" he asked. "You've been quiet lately. More quiet than usual." I was wiping down tables, my third time going over the same table. "I'm fine," I said. "Just tired." "You're always tired," he pointed out. "This is different. You look like someone died." I almost laughed. Someone had died. The version of me that believed in fairness, in family, in the idea that hard work and sacrifice would be rewarded. That Eli was gone. "Just saving for something big," I said. It wasn't a lie. I was saving again. Every tip, every paycheck. Not for college anymore. For something else. Something they'd never see coming. Marcus studied me, then nodded. "All right, man. But if you need to talk, I'm around. We're family here too, you know." I did know. The diner crew treated me better than my actual family did. Joe paid me fairly, gave me extra shifts when I needed them. Marcus shared his lunch with me when I forgot to bring food. Destiny, the waitress who'd been there since before I was born, always slipped me the good tips when customers left cash. They were my real family. The people sitting around our dining table on Sundays were just people who shared my DNA. Blood didn't make you family. Loyalty did. Trust did. Those things had to be earned. And Mom, Ryan, and Madison were about to learn they'd lost mine. Madison's social media became my obsession. I checked it every night before bed, watching her count down to the wedding. She posted preview photos of everything. The venue at sunset, golden light, making everything glow. The dress hanging in her childhood bedroom. White silk that probably cost more than my entire wardrobe. Table settings with flowers I couldn't name, the kind that only lasted a few days before they died. Every post was another reminder of what my money bought. But I wasn't angry anymore. Anger was hot and messy. What I felt was cold and precise. I was documenting everything, taking screenshots, saving photos, building a timeline of exactly how my $42,000 had been spent. The venue posts were my favorite. Madison had tagged Willow Creek Vineyard in every photo. I'd already contacted them a week ago, asked about their corporate partnership program. They'd sent me an information packet. The cost was steep, but I had a plan. Mom's comment on the dress photo caught my attention. "You're going to be the most beautiful bride. Every detail is perfect. So proud of what we've accomplished together. What we've accomplished. Like she'd sewn the dress herself. Like she hadn't just stolen money and handed it over." I zoomed in on the photo of the table settings. There were name cards, gold calligraphy on cream paper. I could make out a few names. Mom and Dad at the head table. Ryan and Madison, obviously. Aunt Caroline, Uncle Pete, Madison's parents. All the people who mattered. I wondered if they'd made a card for me. Probably put me at the kids' table with Madison's little cousins. The guest who didn't matter. But I was sending a guest who'd matter more than all of them combined, and they'd never forget it. The change happened slowly, then all at once. I stopped yelling in my head, stopped imagining confrontations where I screamed at Mom and she finally understood what she'd done. Those fantasies were useless. They were just noise. Instead, I got quiet, methodical. I started documenting everything. I went to the bank and got printed statements going back 4 years. Every deposit I'd made was listed there. Tips from the diner, birthday money, cash from odd jobs. I highlighted each one in yellow. Then I printed the transfer that Mom had made. One withdrawal, $42,500, transferred to an account in Ryan's name. I put it all in a folder. Then I went through my phone, scrolled back through months of text messages, found the ones where Mom had said she'd help me with college, that she was proud of me for saving, that my education mattered. I screenshotted every single one, added them to the folder. I went through Madison's social media, saved every post about the wedding, every mention of Mom's help, every dollar figure she'd accidentally included, the dress cost, the flower budget, the band's fee. I made a spreadsheet. On one side, my deposits over 4 years. On the other side, their wedding expenses. The numbers matched almost perfectly. They'd spent my entire future on one party. I worked on this during my breaks at the diner. Late at night, when everyone else was asleep, I didn't tell anyone what I was doing. Not Dad, not Marcus, not even Destiny when she asked why I looked so focused lately. This was my project, my film, and it was going to premiere at a wedding. 15. The research took 2 weeks. I learned everything about Willow Creek Vineyard. They'd been in business for 12 years. They hosted about 40 weddings a year. They had a reputation for being exclusive, expensive, and very particular about their image. Perfect. Their corporate partnership program was designed for local businesses who wanted exposure at high-end events. For $5,000, a company could display branded materials, set up a small booth, and have their logo included in the venue's event marketing. It was meant for wineries, caterers, wedding planners, not for 18-year-old kids with revenge on their minds. But there was a clause, the clause that changed everything. Corporate partners may display branded media as part of the public event package, subject to venue approval. Media may include video presentations, promotional materials, and digital displays. Video presentations. I read that line 20 times. Then I opened my laptop and started writing. I'd been making short films since I was 14. Nothing fancy, just projects I shot on my phone and edited on my laptop. Stories about people in our town, slice-of-life stuff that my film teacher said showed promise. But this film will be different. This wouldn't be fiction. This would be the truth, documented, edited, scored with music that made people feel something. This would be my acceptance speech to NYU, even though I wasn't going. This would be my college fund, transformed into something nobody could steal or spend or pretend didn't exist. I titled the project file, The Cost of Perfection, and then I started making the guests I was going to send to their wedding. 16. Willow Creek Vineyard responded to my inquiry 3 days later. I'd submitted an application under the name Cooper Family Media, claiming to be a small videography business that specialized in wedding content. Not a complete lie. I did make videos, and my last name was Cooper. The venue coordinator's name was Helen, and she wrote in very polite, very formal language, "Dear Mr. Cooper, thank you for your interest in our corporate partnership program. We would be delighted to discuss your application. Please call to schedule a consultation." I called during my lunch break at the diner, sitting in my car in the parking lot. Helen answered on the second ring. "Willow Creek Vineyard, this is Helen speaking." "Hi, this is Eli Cooper from Cooper Family Media. I submitted an application for your corporate partnership program." "Oh, yes," she said, and I could hear papers shuffling. "You're interested in our August 15th event, correct?" My heart jumped. She didn't know. She had no idea that I was related to the couple getting married. To her, I was just another local business looking for exposure. "That's right," I said, keeping my voice steady. "I create short documentary films about family events, and I'm looking to showcase my work to a broader audience. That's wonderful, Helen said. The August 15th event is a lovely wedding. The Cooper Pierce ceremony. Very elegant affair. She had no idea one of those Coopers was sitting in a diner parking lot planning to crash their own brother's wedding. The partnership fee is $5,000, she continued. That includes space for a display, the ability to show a 5 to 7 minute video presentation during the cocktail hour, and your business name in our event materials. Would that work for your needs? $5,000. I had $3,000 saved from the last month of work. I'd need 2 more. Yes, I said. That works perfectly. When do you need payment? We require full payment 2 weeks before the event. 2 weeks. That gave me 5 weeks to save $2,000 more dollars. It was possible. Joe had said I could work extra shifts. I'd do doubles, triples if I had to. Perfect, I said. I'll have it to you on time. Wonderful, Helen said. I'll send over the contract today. Welcome to our partnership program, Mr. Cooper. I hung up and sat in my car, hands shaking. It was happening. The guest was confirmed. 17. The film took shape slowly. I worked on it every night after my shifts, sometimes until 3 in the morning. My eyes burned from staring at my laptop screen, but I couldn't stop. The film opened with a simple title card, The Cost of Perfection. Then it cut to footage I'd shot on my phone over the last year. Me at the diner, taking orders, cleaning tables. Me walking home at midnight, the street lights making everything look lonely. Me counting tips in my bedroom, adding dollars to my college jar. I'd been filming my life without really knowing why. Now I knew. I'd been building evidence. The next section was the receipts. I'd scanned every bank statement, every deposit slip. I displayed them on screen, one after another, each one showing money going into my account. Tips, paychecks, birthday money. All of it labeled Eli's College Fund. My voiceover explained what each deposit was, where it came from, how long it took to save. Then came the acceptance letter from NYU. I filmed it laying on my desk, the words congratulations and accepted highlighted. My hand appeared in frame. Picking it up, holding it like it was fragile, because it had been. Then the theft. The bank statement showing the withdrawal. $42,500, gone in one transaction. I displayed the transfer details. Date, time, amount, destination, Ryan Cooper Wedding Fund. Then came the wedding expenses. I'd pulled every detail from Madison's social media. The venue cost, the dress, the flowers, the food. I put each expense on screen with its dollar amount, watching them add up. $42,500. Exactly. The final section was the messages. Screenshots of Mom's text saying she was proud of me. Screenshots of her saying education was important. Screenshots of her promising to help with college. Then, the last image, Madison and Mom with champagne glasses, celebrating a dream wedding made possible by stealing someone else's dream. The film ended with a simple statement, funded by the dreams of someone who believed in family. I watched it 10 times, adjusted the pacing, changed the music, made sure every fact was accurate, every receipt was clear, every word was true. This wasn't revenge. This was truth. And truth was about to crash a wedding. I needed more evidence. So I started recording conversations. My phone became my constant companion, always in my pocket, always ready. I wasn't doing anything illegal. Colorado was a one-party consent state. As long as I was part of the conversation, I could record it. Mom made it easy. She loved to talk about the wedding, loved to explain her decisions to relatives who called. I recorded it all. Well, Eli's young, she said to Aunt Caroline during a phone call I wasn't supposed to hear. I was in the kitchen getting water. She was in the living room, speakerphone on. He doesn't understand how important this is. Ryan's the oldest. His wedding sets the tone for our family. We had to make sure it was perfect. But what about his college money? Aunt Caroline asked. Mom laughed. Not a mean laugh, just dismissive. He'll find another way. Community college, maybe. Or he can work for a year. He's got time. Ryan doesn't get another chance at a first wedding. I recorded 3 minutes of that conversation. Then there was a conversation with Madison's mom. I was carrying groceries in from the car, and they were standing in the driveway, both of them looking at photos on Madison's phone. "I can't believe how perfect everything is," Madison's mom said. "You've outdone yourself, Susan." That was Mom's name. Susan Cooper. "Well, I had to make sure Ryan and Madison had the best," Mom said, "even if it meant making some sacrifices." Sacrifices? Eli's college fund. Mom said casually, like she was talking about canceling a streaming subscription. But he understood. Family comes first. Madison's mom made a sympathetic sound. "That's hard, giving up college." "Oh, he'll figure it out," Mom said. "He's resourceful." I recorded that too. 2 minutes of Mom explaining how easy it was to steal from her own son. I collected these recordings like evidence for a trial, because that's what this was. A trial where I was judge, jury, and executioner, and the verdict was already decided. I attended every pre-wedding event with a smile on my face. The engagement party at Madison's parents' house. I showed up in my nicest shirt, brought a card with $20 inside, congratulated them both. Madison hugged me and said, "You're such a sweet brother-in-law." I hugged her back and thought about how many hours of work that $20 represented. 2.5 hours. She wore earrings that cost more. The bridal shower. Mom insisted I help serve food. Said it would be nice to have a man's touch at the event. I carried trays of finger sandwiches and poured champagne from Madison's friends. They ignored me unless they needed a refill. Madison opened presents, squealed over kitchen mixers and crystal vases. One gift was a set of wine glasses that cost $300. I knew because the price tag was still attached. $300. That was a week of work for me. One gift at a wedding shower. When I got home that night, I edited new footage into my film. Me serving food at the shower. Madison opening expensive gifts. Mom laughing with Madison's friends. All of it funded by money they didn't earn. The rehearsal dinner was the hardest. It was at an Italian restaurant downtown, the kind with white tablecloths and waiters in bow ties. Ryan stood up and gave a speech thanking everyone for their support. "Especially my mom," he said, "who went above and beyond to make this wedding happen. I don't know what we'd do without her." Everyone clapped. Mom cried happy tears. I sat at the end of the table, next to Madison's little cousins, and smiled. Madison leaned over during dessert. "You've been so great through all this," she said. "So understanding. Not all little brothers would be this mature about Ryan getting married." "Happy to help," I said. She smiled and went back to her tiramisu. She had no idea. None of them did. They thought my silence meant acceptance. They were wrong. It meant I was just waiting for the right moment to speak. The payment to Willow Creek Vineyard was due on August 1st. I'd worked every shift Joe would give me, doubles, triples, covering for people who called in sick. My feet ached constantly. My hands had new burns from a grill. But on July 30th, I checked my account and saw the number I needed, $5,217. I went to the bank on my lunch break, got a cashier's check made out to Willow Creek Vineyard. The teller who processed it was an older woman with kind eyes. "Big purchase," she said, looking at the amount. "Wedding," I said. "Not a lie." She smiled. "How wonderful. Congratulations." "Thank you," I said, and took the check. I drove to Willow Creek that afternoon, asked to see Helen. She met me in the lobby of their event center, a building made mostly of windows with views of rolling vineyards. "Mr. Cooper," she said, shaking my hand. "Lovely to finally meet you in person." I handed her the check, payment for the August 15 partnership. She took it, examined it professionally. "Perfect. Everything's in order. Your display space will be in the pavilion, near the entrance. You will have access to our media system for your video presentation. It will play during the cocktail hour, around 6:30. 6:30? I repeated. That was perfect. Right after the ceremony, right when all the guests would be gathering. Maximum audience. "Do you need any technical support?" Helen asked. "No. I'll handle everything, I said. I just need the media system login information. She pulled out a folder, handed me a sheet with login credentials and instructions. Everything you need is here. We're excited to see your work. I bet you are, I thought. Thank you, I said. This is going to be a wedding nobody forgets. They never are, Helen said, smiling. Weddings at Willow Creek are always special. I left the venue with the credentials in my pocket, and my film loaded on a flash drive in my bag. The guest was confirmed. The venue was paid for. Now I just had to wait 2 more weeks. 2 more weeks of pretending everything was fine. 2 more weeks of being invisible. Then they'd see me. They'd all see me. August 15th arrived with perfect weather. Clear sky, warm sun, the kind of day that wedding planners prayed for. I woke up early, checked my bag 3 times. Flash drive with the film. Backup flash drive. Login credentials for the venue's media system. My phone fully charged. I'd taken the day off from the diner. Joe had asked if I needed the day, and I'd said yes. Big family thing, I'd told him. He'd nodded, didn't ask questions. The wedding started at 5. I arrived at Willow Creek at 3. Told the security guard I was with the Corporate Partnerships Program. He checked his list, waved me through. The venue was already bustling. Workers setting up chairs, arranging flowers, testing sound systems. Everything was white and gold. The chairs had white silk covers. The arch where Ryan and Madison would stand was covered in white roses. Even the tablecloths were white with gold runners. I found Helen near the main pavilion, directing workers with calm efficiency. She saw me and smiled. "Mr. Cooper, right on time. Your display area is over there." She pointed to a corner near the entrance, a small table, a sign that said Corporate Partners. There were 2 other businesses, a local winery and a wedding planning company. Both had glossy brochures and professional displays. I set up my laptop, connected it to the venue's media system using the credentials Helen had given me. The system was simple, designed for venues to show slideshows of the couple during dinner, but it would work perfectly for my purposes. I loaded my film, tested the audio, made sure everything played correctly. 5 minutes and 43 seconds of truth, ready to broadcast to 120 wedding guests. All set. Helen asked, walking by with a clipboard. All set. I confirmed. She nodded and moved on to deal with a flower emergency. I sat at my table, watching the setup continue around me. Madison's mother arrived at 4, inspected everything with careful eyes. She paused at the arch, adjusted a rose that had tilted slightly. Mom showed up 10 minutes later, wearing a navy blue dress that probably cost more than my monthly rent. She was already crying happy tears. I watched from my corner, invisible again. Neither of them looked at the corporate partner area. Why would they? It was just local businesses trying to get exposure. Nothing that mattered. But everything that mattered was sitting on my laptop, waiting. The guests started arriving at 4:30. I watched them come in, dressed in their best clothes. Expensive suits, designer dresses, jewelry that caught the light. They signed the guest book, accepted champagne from servers in black vests, walked out to the ceremony space where the white chairs waited in neat rows. I recognized some of them. Aunt Caroline and Uncle Pete, Grandma Josephine. Cousins I saw once a year at holidays. Madison's friend from college, all of them looking like they'd stepped out of a magazine. Ryan's friend from work, loud and confident. Everyone important to the couple. Everyone except me. I was a corporate partner in the corner, setting up a business display. Nobody looked at me twice. Dad arrived alone, which surprised me. He was wearing his good suit, the one he saved for funerals and weddings. He looked uncomfortable, kept pulling at his collar. I almost went to him, almost said something, but I stayed in my corner. This wasn't about reconciliation. Not yet. At 4:50, the string quartet started playing. Everyone moved to their seats. I could see the ceremony from my position, had a clear view through the glass walls of the pavilion. Ryan stood at the altar with his best man. He looked nervous, kept wiping his hands on his pants. The music changed. Everyone stood. Madison appeared at the end of the aisle, her arm linked through her father's. The white dress looked even more expensive in person. The train spread behind her like a river. She walked slowly, smiling at guests on both sides. When she reached Ryan, they joined hands. The officiant began speaking, but I couldn't hear the words from where I was. I didn't need to. I'd seen enough weddings and movies to know what he was saying. Love, commitment, forever. All the words that sounded beautiful but meant nothing when you built them on stolen foundations. The ceremony lasted 20 minutes. They exchanged vows, exchanged rings, kissed while everyone clapped. The quartet played something triumphant. Ryan and Madison walked back down the aisle as husband and wife, both of them glowing with happiness. The guests stood, clapping, some of them wiping tears. It was perfect. Everything Mom had wanted. Everything they'd spent $42,000 to create. As the guests started moving toward the pavilion for cocktail hour, Helen appeared at my station. "Your video is set to play in about 10 minutes, she said. "It will show on the main screen right as people are settling in with drinks. Good timing for corporate visibility." "Perfect," I said. My hands were shaking. I shoved them in my pockets so she wouldn't notice. The pavilion filled with guests. Servers circulated with trays of appetizers and champagne. The atmosphere was light, celebratory. People laughed, hugged, congratulated the newlyweds. Ryan and Madison stood near the entrance, greeting everyone. Mom hovered near them, accepting compliments about how beautiful everything was. I stayed at my corner table, watching the clock. 6:28, 6:29. At 6:30, the lights in the pavilion dimmed slightly. Helen walked to the center of the room and spoke into a small microphone. "Good evening, everyone. While we prepare for dinner, please enjoy a presentation from one of our corporate partners, Cooper Family Media." She gestured toward the large screen mounted on the wall. My film's title card appeared. The Cost of Perfection. The pavilion went quiet. Guests turned to look at the screen. Curious. This was it. The guest I'd sent to the wedding was about to arrive. The film started with the footage of me at the diner, working, serving, cleaning. My voiceover began, calm and clear. "My name is Eli Cooper. I'm 18 years old. For the past 4 years, I've worked at Joe's Diner on Route 9, saving money for college." The screen showed my bank statements, deposits highlighted in yellow, each one listed with a date and amount. Every dollar here represents hours of work. Late shifts burned hands, sore feet. I saved $42,500 for my education at NYU Film School. I could feel the energy in the room changing, confusion spreading. I glanced at the crowd. People were leaning forward, reading the bank statements on screen. Mom's face had gone pale. The film continued. My acceptance letter from NYU appeared, the word "congratulations" filling the screen. I was accepted to my dream school. I was going to study film. But that dream ended when someone made a decision without asking me. The withdrawal statement appeared. $42,500. Gone in one transaction. My voiceover explained what happened. Each word precise and factual. My mother transferred my entire college fund to pay for the wedding you're attending right now. Gasps rippled through the crowd. I saw Madison's hand fly to her mouth. Ryan turned to look at Mom, his face confused. The film kept playing. The wedding expenses appeared on screen, one by one. Venue, $8,000. Catering, $12,000. Flowers, $3,000. Each expense accompanied by screenshots from Madison's social media, showing her posting about these exact details. The math was unavoidable. The expenses matched my college fund perfectly. Then came the recorded conversations. Mom's voice filled the pavilion. "He'll find another way. Community college. Maybe. Ryan doesn't get another chance at a first wedding." More gasps. Heads turned to look at Mom, who stood frozen near the newlyweds. The film showed the final section, Madison and Mom with champagne glasses, celebrating. My voiceover delivered the closing line. This wedding was funded by the dreams of someone who believed in family. I hope it was worth it. The screen went black. The title card returned. The Cost of Perfection. A film by Eli Cooper. Then silence. Nobody moved for what felt like forever. The pavilion was completely silent. 120 people standing with champagne glasses and appetizer plates, staring at the blank screen. Then the whispers started, low at first, then building. People turning to each other, repeating what they'd just heard. Did that say college fund? His mother took his money? For this wedding? I watched from my corner as the reality spread through the crowd like a wave. Madison was crying, but not happy tears anymore. Her makeup was running. Ryan had his hand on her shoulder, but he was staring at Mom with an expression I'd never seen before. Betrayal, maybe, or shock. Mom looked like she'd been hit. Her face was white, her mouth opening and closing with no sound coming out. She reached for Ryan's arm, but he pulled away. "Ryan, I can explain," she started, but her voice cracked. "You took his college fund?" Ryan's voice was loud enough that everyone near them could hear. The whispers stopped. Everyone was listening now. "You told me you'd save money for the wedding. You said it was from savings you and Dad had." "I did save it," Mom said desperately. "Eli saved it. For 4 years. We needed it more for your special day." "His college fund," Ryan repeated, like he couldn't believe the words. "You stole from your own kid." "I didn't steal." Mom's voice was getting shrill. "I'm his mother. That money was family money. We're a family." Madison made a sound, something between a sob and a gasp. She turned to Mom. "You said you were helping us. You said it was your gift." "It was a gift," Mom insisted. "I gave it freely. It wasn't yours to give." Ryan's voice echoed in the glass pavilion. Several guests near them stepped back. I could see faces in the crowd. Shock, disgust, pity. Some people were looking around, trying to find me. I stayed in my corner, watching. This was their moment, not mine. Aunt Caroline pushed through the crowd, walked straight to Mom. "Susan, tell me this isn't true." Mom's face crumbled. "I did what I thought was right. Ryan needed this wedding. Eli's young. He has time." "Time!" Dad's voice cut through the noise. I hadn't noticed him moving, but now he was standing next to Ryan, staring at Mom like he'd never seen her before. He worked for 4 years. He earned that money. "We're a family," Mom repeated like it was a shield. "Family helps family." "Family doesn't steal," Dad said quietly. And then he turned and walked out of the pavilion. The chaos that followed was immediate. Guests started talking loudly, no longer bothering to whisper. Some people left, walking quickly to their cars. Others stayed but moved away from the bridal party, forming small groups near the edges of the pavilion. The string quartet had stopped playing. The servers stood awkwardly with their trays, unsure whether to continue. Madison was full-on crying now, her perfect makeup destroyed. She kept saying, "I didn't know," over and over, but nobody was listening. Ryan stood next to her, hands in his hair, looking lost. He turned in a circle, scanning the pavilion. "Where's Eli?" he called out. "Where is he?" I stayed in my corner. Helen appeared next to me, her professional calm completely shattered. "Mr. Cooper, I need you to explain what just happened." "Corporate partnership," I said. "Branded media display, exactly as outlined in the contract. You can check if you'd like." She stared at me, then at the chaos in the pavilion, then back at me. "That was your brother's wedding." "That was my college fund," I replied. She opened her mouth, closed it, then walked away quickly, probably to call her manager. Mom was in the center of a small crowd now. Aunt Caroline was talking to her in a low, angry voice. Grandma Josephine had sat down in a nearby chair, looking dazed. Uncle Pete was on his phone, probably telling someone what had just happened. The DJ, who'd been setting up for the reception, packed his equipment and left. The photographer was still there, camera at his side, looking uncomfortable. Madison's parents approached Ryan and Madison. I couldn't hear what they said, but Madison's mother was crying too. Her father looked furious. They talked for a minute. Then Madison's father shook his head and walked away. Madison collapsed into a chair, still crying. The venue coordinator appeared, whispered something to Helen. They both looked at me, then looked away. I checked my phone. 6:43. The whole thing had taken 13 minutes to fall apart. A $42,000 wedding destroyed by a 5-minute film. The math felt appropriate. Mom fainted. Or maybe she just collapsed. 1 minute she was standing, arguing with Aunt Caroline, and the next she was on the ground. Ryan rushed over, yelling for someone to call an ambulance. People crowded around her. Someone brought water. Madison's mother, still crying, knelt down to check Mom's pulse. I stayed in my corner, watching. I should have felt something. Guilt, maybe. Concern. But I just felt empty. Hollow. Like I'd spent all my emotions making the film and had none left for the aftermath. The ambulance arrived 12 minutes later. Paramedics loaded Mom onto a stretcher. She was conscious by then, crying, saying Ryan's name over and over. He climbed into the ambulance with her. Before the doors closed, he turned and looked around the pavilion one more time. His eyes found me in my corner. We stared at each other for a long moment. He opened his mouth like he was going to say something, but the paramedic told him to get in. The ambulance left, lights flashing but no siren. Madison was still in her chair, surrounded by her bridesmaids. They were all crying now, a circle of expensive dresses and ruined makeup. Madison's father came back, said something to her that made her cry harder. She stood up, her dress trailing on the ground, and walked out. Her bridesmaids followed. The pavilion was emptying fast. Guests who'd stayed to watch the drama now had permission to leave. They filed out in groups, talking quietly. I heard fragments of conversations. Can you believe that? $42,000. That poor boy. They weren't talking about Ryan. By 7 o'clock, the pavilion was nearly empty. Just venue staff, Helen, a few stragglers. The beautiful setup looked abandoned. White chairs in neat rows with nobody to sit in them. Tables set with plates that would never be used. The white and gold decorations looked sad in the fading light. I packed up my laptop, disconnected from the media system. Helen approached me one more time. "You need to leave," she said. Her professional tone was gone. She just sounded tired. "Already going," I said. I walked out of the pavilion, past the empty chairs, past the arch of white roses that nobody had bothered to photograph after the ceremony. My car was in the back lot. I drove home through the sunset, watching the sky turn pink and orange. Beautiful, peaceful, like the world had no idea what had just happened. The video went online that night, not by choice. Someone at the wedding had filmed my fill with their phone and posted it. By the time I woke up the next morning, it had been shared 300 times. By afternoon, 3,000. By evening, it was everywhere. Local news picked it up first. Wedding disrupted by family controversy. The comments section was intense. Most people were on my side. Mom's a thief. That poor kid worked for 4 years. Family doesn't steal from family. But some people thought I'd gone too far. He ruined their wedding day. This should have been handled privately. Revenge isn't the answer. I didn't read the comments after the first hour. It didn't matter what strangers thought. The damage was done. My phone started ringing around noon. Aunt Caroline called first. I didn't answer. Then Grandma Josephine. Then people I barely knew, probably wanting details to share with their friends. I turned my phone off. Dad came home that evening. I was in my room, staring at my laptop, when I heard the front door open. He climbed the stairs slowly, knocked on my door. "Can I come in?" I opened the door. He looked exhausted, older somehow. "How's Mom?" I asked because I was supposed to. Hospital kept her overnight for observation. She's home now in bed. Ryan's with her. We stood there in my doorway, neither of us knowing what to say. "I didn't know," Dad said finally, "about the college fund. She told me she'd save money separately for the wedding. I didn't know it was yours." "I know," I said, "and I did. Dad wouldn't have let it happen if he'd known. He was weak, but he wasn't cruel." "What you did at the wedding," he started, then stopped. "I don't know if it was right, but I understand why you did it." That was as close to approval as I was going to get. "Are you staying?" I asked, meaning the house, the marriage, everything. He shook his head slowly. "Can't. Not after this." I'm going to your Uncle Pete's for a while. Figure things out. He looked at me, really looked at me, maybe for the first time in years. You worked hard for that money. You deserve better. From all of us. He left my room, went downstairs. I heard him in the garage, probably packing some of his tools. An hour later, his truck pulled out of the driveway. I watched from my window until the taillights disappeared. The house felt different without him. Quieter, but not in a peaceful way. Just empty. The legal complications started 3 days later. Ryan called me from a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. Eli. His voice was flat, drained of emotion. We need to talk. Okay. The IRS is investigating Mom. Because she transferred money from your account to mine, they're treating it as a gift. A $42,000 gift. That's taxable. I hadn't thought about that. Hadn't considered the tax implications of Mom's theft. They're saying we owe around $14,000 in gift taxes. Money we don't have. The wedding cost everything we had plus what Mom gave us. He paused. Gave us. Took from you. Whatever the right word is. Stole, I suggested. Yeah, he said quietly. That. I didn't say anything. Let him fill the silence. Madison's parents are furious. They're saying they were deceived, that if they'd known the money was stolen, they never would have let the wedding go forward. Madison's talking about an annulment. That surprised me. Annulment? She says she can't build a marriage on stolen money. Says it's tainted. Her parents are encouraging it. They think I'm a bad investment now. He laughed, but there was no humor in it. Turns out they were right. I am a bad investment. I let my mom steal from my brother and didn't even question where the money came from. You didn't know, I said, and I meant it. Ryan had his faults, but I didn't think he'd have gone along with the theft if he'd known the truth. I should have known. I should have asked. I just took the money and said thank you. He was quiet for a moment. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I didn't protect you. I'm sorry I was too focused on my own life to notice Mom was destroying yours. It was the first real apology I'd gotten, but it didn't change anything. I know, I said, but sorry doesn't pay for college. No, he agreed. It doesn't. He hung up. I sat with my phone in my hand, thinking about Ryan and Madison's marriage ending before it really began. Thinking about $14,000 in taxes they couldn't pay. Thinking about how one theft had created a cascade of consequences that nobody had seen coming. Not even me. Mom showed up at the diner 4 days after the wedding. I was wiping down tables during the afternoon lull when the bell over the door chimed. I looked up and there she was, still wearing her navy blue dress from the wedding, wrinkled now. Her hair was messy, her eyes red from crying. Marcus saw her from the kitchen, caught my eye. I nodded. It was fine. She sat at a booth near the back, the one where nobody usually sat. I grabbed a coffee pot and walked over. Coffee. I asked like she was any other customer. Eli, please. We need to talk. I'm working. I poured coffee into her cup without asking again. I'll come back for your order. I don't want food. I want you to listen to me. I set the coffee pot down on the table, slid into the booth across from her. We hadn't been this close since before the wedding, hadn't looked at each other directly. She looked awful, older, broken. You destroyed this family, she said, her voice shaking. You humiliated us in front of everyone. Ryan and Madison's marriage is falling apart. Your father left me. I can't show my face at church. The neighbors won't talk to me. You did this. I didn't say anything, just looked at her. That money was for family, she continued. For Ryan's future, for something important. You were being selfish, keeping it all for yourself when your brother needed help. Selfish, I repeated, for wanting to use the money I earned for the education I was accepted to. You could have gone to community college. You didn't need NYU. And Ryan didn't need a $42,000 wedding. My voice was calm. I'd practiced this conversation in my head 100 times. He could have gotten married at a courthouse, could have had a small ceremony, could have paid for it himself. You're young, she said desperately. You don't understand. Image matters. What people think matters. Ryan needed that wedding to establish himself, to show he was successful. And I needed that money to have a future. But my future didn't matter, did it? She opened her mouth, closed it. Tears ran down her face. I'm your mother. How could you do that to me? No, Mom. I stood up, picked up the coffee pot. How could you do that to me? You stole from your own son. You sold my future for Ryan's party. And now you're sitting here asking how I could destroy the family. I looked at her, this woman who'd raised me, who'd made me pot roast and driven me to school and told me she loved me. I didn't destroy this family, Mom. You did. You sold it for $42,000 and a perfect image. I just made sure everyone knew the price. I walked away, back to the counter. Marcus didn't say anything, just nodded at me. Mom sat in that booth for 10 more minutes, crying quietly. Then she left. She didn't pay for the coffee. I didn't charge her. Dad called me a week later. He was still staying at Uncle Pete's. Said he was looking for his own place. Talk to your Uncle Pete about everything, he said. About how things have been in this family. How your mom treated you compared to Ryan. How I just let it happen. Dad, you don't... No, let me finish. His voice was firm, more firm than I'd ever heard it. I let her control everything. Let her decide who got what, who mattered more. I told myself I was keeping the peace, but really I was just being a coward. He sighed. When you were 14 and needed a new computer for school, I wanted to buy it for you. But she said we couldn't afford it. Said you could use the library computers. Then she bought Ryan a laptop 2 months later for his birthday. I didn't say anything. I remembered that. Remembered feeling like I didn't deserve the same things Ryan got. I let her make you feel like you didn't matter. Like you were less important than your brother. That was wrong. I was wrong. His voice cracked. I'm sorry, son. For all of it. Are you coming back? I asked. To the house. No. I'm done with that marriage. Should have been done years ago. He paused. But I'm not done with you. I'm going to do better. Be better. You deserve better from both of us. But especially from me. We talked for another hour. He told me he'd open a savings account in my name, was putting money in it every week. It wouldn't be enough for NYU, not anytime soon. But it was something. After we hung up, I sat in my room thinking about families. How they were supposed to protect you, support you, make you feel like you belonged. How mine had done the opposite. But maybe family wasn't just blood. Maybe it was the people who showed up when it mattered. Dad was trying to show up, even if it was late. That counted for something. I thought about Marcus at the diner, sharing his lunch with me. About Joe, giving me extra shifts when I needed money. About Destiny, always making sure I got the good tips. They'd been more family than my actual family for years. Maybe that's what I should have been focusing on all along. Not the people who share my name, but the people who cared whether I succeeded. Ryan called again 2 weeks after the wedding. Madison had filed for annulment. They'd been married for 14 days. Her parents are paying for the legal fees, he said. He didn't sound angry anymore, just tired. They hired a good lawyer. It'll go through fast. I'm sorry, I said, and I hadn't wanted his marriage to end. I just wanted the truth to come out. Don't be... She's right. We can't build a life on stolen money. Every time we'd look at our wedding photos, we'd think about where the money came from. It's poison. He was quiet for a moment. I've been thinking about what happened, about why I didn't question it when Mom said she had money for the wedding. I think I knew, somewhere deep down. I just didn't want to look at it too close. Ryan, no, let me say this. I knew you were saving for college. I knew how hard you worked. When Mom said she had $42,000 saved up, I should have wondered where it came from. But I didn't ask because I didn't want to know. He paused. I wanted the perfect wedding more than I wanted to be a good brother. That's on me. It was the most honest Ryan had ever been with me. You could have just told me, he said finally. Could have called me, explained what Mom did. We could have worked it out. I tried, I said. Not with words, but I tried. I was invisible in this family. Nothing I said ever mattered. So I found a different way to make you listen. We're listening now, he said quietly. Yeah, you are. We stayed on the phone for a few more minutes, not saying much. Before he hung up, he said, I know you can't forgive me yet. Maybe not ever, but I'm going to pay you back. Every dollar. It's going to take time, but I'll do it. Ryan, you don't have to. Yeah, I do. Mom took your money, but I spent it. That makes me responsible too. He hung up before I could argue. I sat there thinking about redemption, whether people could change, whether mistakes could be fixed. I didn't know the answer, but at least Ryan was trying. That was more than Mom had done. The email came 3 weeks after the wedding. I almost deleted it, thinking it was spam. The subject line read, NYU Tisch School, special consideration for Eli Cooper. I opened it with shaking hands. Dear Mr. Cooper, we recently became aware of a short film titled The Cost of Perfection that has been shared widely on social media. After watching the film and researching its context, we have been deeply moved by your story and impressed by your filmmaking abilities. I read the paragraph 3 times. They'd seen my film. NYU had seen my film. Your piece demonstrates a sophisticated understanding of documentary storytelling, visual composition, and emotional narrative. The technical quality and emotional impact showcase exactly the kind of talent we look for in our incoming students. My hand was shaking so hard, I almost dropped the phone. We would like to offer you a full scholarship under our Emerging Voices program. This scholarship covers tuition and housing and provides a stipend for living expenses for all 4 years of your undergraduate education. I stood up, sat down, stood up again. A full scholarship. For years. Everything covered. We understand that you deferred your original admission due to financial circumstances. If you are still interested in attending Tisch, we would be honored to have you join our program this spring semester. Please contact us at your earliest convenience to discuss the details. The email was signed by the head of admissions, the same person who'd sent my original acceptance letter. I read the email 10 more times, checking to make sure it was real, that I hadn't misunderstood. But it was clear. They were offering me everything I'd lost, everything Mom had taken. I was going to film school, not because of the $42,000 in my savings account, but because I'd made a film about losing it. The irony was beautiful. I left home in late December, 3 months after the wedding that destroyed my family. Mom was still in the house, but we barely spoke. She stayed in her bedroom most days, came out only when necessary. The neighbors really had stopped talking to her. Aunt Caroline had stopped calling. The church had quietly asked her to step down from the volunteer committee. She'd gotten exactly what she feared most. Social isolation, a damaged reputation. But instead of learning from it, she just retreated further into denial. The night before I left, she came to my room. I was packing my camera equipment, carefully wrapping lenses in bubble wrap. So you're really going, she said from the doorway. Full scholarship to NYU. Yes, I'm going. You didn't even tell me. I had to hear from your father. Why would I tell you? You made it clear my education didn't matter. She flinched but didn't leave. You know people are saying terrible things about me, saying I'm a bad mother, saying I destroyed my own son's future. You did, I said, not looking at her. You literally stole my college fund. What would you call that? I was trying to help Ryan. I was trying to do what was best for the family. You were trying to look good. That's all you've ever cared about. Looking perfect, even when everything was broken. I closed my suitcase, zipped it shut. Do you even feel bad? Do you feel guilty at all about what you did? She was quiet for a long moment. I feel bad about how it turned out. About losing your father. About Ryan's marriage ending. About people judging me. But not about taking my money. That money was in a family account. In my name. Legally, it was mine to use. She said it like she believed it. Like repeating the justification enough times would make it true. I looked at her finally. This woman who'd raised me, but never really seen me. You're going to spend the rest of your life alone, Mom. And you're going to tell yourself it's everyone else's fault. That I'm the villain for exposing you. That Dad's weak for leaving. That Ryan's ungrateful for not defending you. I picked up my suitcase. But when you're sitting alone in this house, Maybe take a minute to think about the real reason everyone left. It wasn't me. It wasn't the film. It was you. I walked past her and down the stairs. She didn't follow. New York City in January was nothing like Colorado. Cold in a different way, wet and windy and full of people who moved fast and didn't make eye contact. I loved it immediately. My dorm was in Brooklyn, a converted building that used to be a factory. My roommate was from California, a guy named Troy who wanted to make action movies. We got along because we both just wanted to work, to learn, to make things. Classes started the second week of January. I walked into my first film production class, feeling like I'd been waiting my whole life for this moment. The professor was a woman named Dr. Barnes who'd worked on actual movies, documentaries that had won awards. Filmmaking, she said on the first day, is about truth, not facts, not accuracy. Truth, the deep stuff that people don't want to look at. I thought about my film, about the wedding, about the truth I'd forced my family to see. The assignments were intense. We shot, edited, presented films every 2 weeks. Mine were different from everyone else's. While other students made artsy pieces about isolation or experimental films with weird camera angles, I made documentaries about real people. The deli owner on my block who sent money back to Yemen to support his family. The subway musician who'd once played Carnegie Hall. The truth of their lives, captured honestly. Dr. Barnes pulled me aside after my third assignment. "You have something," she said. "A perspective. Don't lose it trying to be artistic. Your strength is honesty." I thought about Mom, about how honesty had destroyed her carefully constructed image, how truth had been the weapon that worked when nothing else did. "Thank you," I said. At night, I edited in the dorm common room, headphones on, working until my eyes burned. Troy would bring me coffee, tell me to sleep, but I wasn't tired. I was alive. For the first time in years, maybe ever, I was doing exactly what I was meant to do. The film festival was in March, a student showcase where each class could submit their best work. I submitted a short documentary about my roommate Troy, about why he wanted to make action movies. It wasn't what people expected. No discussions of explosions or car chases. Instead, it was about his older brother who died in a military accident overseas. How Troy wanted to make movies where the hero survived, where bravery meant living instead of dying. The festival was in a small theater in Manhattan. About 200 students, professors, industry people who came to scout new talent. My film played third in the lineup. I sat in the back, watching the audience watch my work. When it ended, there was a long silence. Then applause. Not polite clapping, real applause that lasted 30 seconds. After the festival, people approached me. Other students wanted to collaborate. A professor asking if I'd be interested in a mentorship program. But the person who mattered most was standing near the exit. A woman in her 50s, professional clothes, confident demeanor. "Eli Cooper?" she asked. I nodded. "I'm Patricia Hammond. I run a production company that makes documentaries for streaming platforms. That piece you made about your roommate was extraordinary. Have you thought about what you want to do after graduation?" "Make films like that," I said. "Tell true stories." She handed me a business card. "Call me in 2 years when you graduate. We have an internship program. I think you'd be a good fit." I took the card, held it like it might disappear if I wasn't careful. This was it. The future I'd worked for, almost lost, then found again in a completely different way. That night, Troy and I went to a pizza place near campus to celebrate. "You're going to be famous," he said, eating his fourth slice. "You'll make documentaries that win Oscars or whatever." "I just want to tell stories that matter," I said. "Same thing," he grinned. And maybe success wasn't about fame or awards. Maybe it was about doing work that felt true, that helped people see themselves or others more clearly. That's what my wedding film had done. Forced my family to see the truth they'd been avoiding. And maybe that's what I'd keep doing. Not with revenge, but with purpose. The wedding video continued its life online, separate from me. I didn't check its view count anymore, didn't read the comments. But people found me anyway. My social media filled with messages from strangers, some of them supportive. You did the right thing. Your mom deserved to be exposed. Some of them critical. You should have handled it privately. Revenge isn't justice. But the messages that mattered were the ones from other people who'd been stolen from. Kids whose parents had raided their savings for other siblings. People whose families had chosen favorites, left them behind. They thanked me for showing that silence wasn't the only option. One message stood out. It was from a girl in Texas named Kira. My dad took my quinceanera money to pay for my brother's car. I've been quiet about it for 2 years, afraid of causing family drama. But watching your film made me realize I have a voice. I confronted him yesterday. He's paying me back. Thank you for showing me that speaking up matters. I read that message 5 times. What I'd done at the wedding hadn't just been about my family. It had become something bigger, a statement that victims didn't have to stay quiet to keep the peace. The video hit 1 million views in April. Some content creator had done a reaction video, breaking down the film scene by scene, talking about the documentary techniques I'd used. They called it art. This isn't just revenge, they said in the video. This is storytelling at its finest. The way he builds a narrative, uses receipts as visual evidence, includes audio recordings. This is a masterclass in documentary filmmaking. Their video got shared almost as much as mine. Suddenly, film students were analyzing my work, breaking down my editing choices, discussing the emotional impact of my pacing. What I'd made in anger and hurt had become something studied, discussed, used as an example. I wasn't sure how I felt about that. The film was personal, painful, but if it helped other people find their voice, if it showed that truth could be powerful, then maybe it was worth all the hurt it had caused. Maybe destruction and creation weren't opposites. Maybe sometimes you had to break something to build something better. One night in late April, I sat in my dorm room and recorded a voiceover for a new project. But really, I was just talking to myself, processing everything that had happened in the past year. People asked me if I regret what I did at the wedding. I said into my microphone, if I would do it differently, knowing how it all turned out. The answer is complicated. I paused, thinking about Mom alone in that house, about Ryan's failed marriage, about Dad starting over at 53. I didn't ruin their wedding. They did. My mom stole from me, made a choice that prioritized image over my future. Ryan accepted money without asking questions. Madison wanted the perfect party more than the ethical source of funding. I recorded for 20 minutes, sorting through my thoughts. What I did was make the truth visible. I didn't lie, didn't exaggerate, didn't manipulate facts. I just showed everyone what actually happened, in a format they couldn't ignore. The recording would never be public. This was just for me. The thing about truth is that it doesn't care about timing or convenience. It doesn't wait for the right moment. And sometimes, when people have ignored the truth for so long, you have to make it impossible to ignore. I stopped recording, played it back. My voice sounded older than 18, tired but certain. So no, I don't regret it. I regret that it had to happen. I regret that my family chose theft and image over honesty and support. But I don't regret speaking up. I don't regret refusing to be silent just to keep everyone comfortable. I saved the file, titled it Reflections, and closed my laptop. Outside my window, Brooklyn was lit up, millions of people living their lives, carrying their own truths and secrets. I was just one person who decided silence wasn't the answer. Tomorrow I'd go to class, work on my next project, keep building the future I'd almost lost. But tonight, I just sat with the understanding that sometimes the hardest thing and the right thing were the same thing. And I'd chosen right. Spring in New York meant the city came alive. Trees blooming in Washington Square Park. Students scattered on the grass. Street performers playing for tourists. I walked to the park on a Saturday morning, camera in hand, filming nothing in particular, just capturing moments. An old man feeding pigeons. A couple dancing to music from a phone. A kid blowing bubbles that caught the light. This was my life now. Not perfect, but mine, built from the ruins of what I'd lost. I sat on a bench, watched the world move around me. My phone buzzed. A text from Dad. Proud of you, son. Mom called me yesterday, asked about you, told her to call you herself if she wanted to know how you were doing. She didn't. I smiled. Dad was learning to set boundaries. About time. Another text, this one from Ryan. Paid the first 1,000 toward what I owe you. We'll send another 1,000 next month. It'll take time, but I'll make it right. I typed back a simple thanks and put the phone away. Some wounds healed slowly. Maybe Ryan and I would rebuild our relationship eventually. Maybe not. Either way, I was okay. A group of film students passed by, arguing about some director's use of long takes. I recognized them from my documentary class. They waved, invited me to join them for lunch. I stood up, adjusted my camera bag. Yeah, I'm coming. As we walked toward a nearby cafe, one of them asked about my wedding film. They'd all seen it, of course. Everyone in the film department had. Do you ever think about making a follow-up? She asked. Showing what happened after? I considered it. Maybe someday, when there's more distance, when I can look at it without feeling everything all over again. That's the mark of good documentary work, she said. When a filmmaker cares enough to be effective but skilled enough to shape that feeling into something others can understand. We reached the cafe, ordered sandwiches and coffee. They talked about their projects, their dreams, the films they wanted to make after graduation. I listened, contributed, felt like I belonged. This was my family now. People who understood that stories mattered, that truth was worth capturing, that art could come from pain. As I walked back to my dorm later, camera full of footage from the park, I thought about the title of my wedding film, The Cost of Perfection. Mom had paid that cost, lost her marriage, her reputation, her relationships, all in pursuit of an image that lasted exactly 13 minutes before it shattered. But I'd paid a cost too, lost my innocence about family, about trust, about the assumption that parents always protected their children. The difference was what we bought with that cost. She bought temporary perfection and permanent loneliness. I bought truth, freedom, and a future built on my own terms. I smiled, shifted my camera bag, kept walking. Turned out the best education I'd gotten that year wasn't from my film classes. It was from revenge, from learning that silence wasn't strength, that keeping the peace wasn't worth losing yourself, that sometimes the only way forward was to burn down what wasn't working and build something new from ashes. Would I do it again? Absolutely. And that was the truth, the only truth that mattered.